Doctor Who, Series 12, Episodes 1 and 2, Spyfall,
No, 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 not to be confused with Skyfall, although they're both spy
which was
things. So
probably the point.
Yeah, it was play on that. Yeah.
yeah, I
How
know.
does
I'm
Gallifrey
sorry,
work?
I
Doctor.
don't know.
How
You
does
mean the
Gallifrey in a
whole?
bubble work?
You mean within their time and how they link their times to the rest of Gallifrey?
Well, just like, I mean, okay, so Day of the Doctor,
It's
okay?
probably like area code, but instead of area code, it's time code.
No, nothing that
I
simple.
mean, that's what on like when they have the special piece that the doctor gave Rose so she could call her mom in that one episode,
But
and
that's not what I'm getting at.
I know.
And yeah, I'm talking about how does Gallifrey work in terms of being trapped in a moment of time. Okay, so you have Day of the Doctor. They trap it in a moment of time. They disappear it. Okay, the Daleks fire on each other. They wipe each other out. Gallifrey is more or less fine. It's ravaged by war, but frozen in time. Okay. Then you have Heaven sent into Hell Bent. He goes through the confession dial to Gallifrey. Okay, so he's gone to get. So you can get to Gallifrey, or was that before they'd been sent into the bubble? Like, what happened there? Can you go backwards and then go into Gallifrey as long as you leave before they were frozen in a moment of time? And then for a while there,
No, I
he couldn't find Gallifrey, even though he'd been there through the confession dial. and then and then now it's no long it was supposed to be trapped in a moment of time, but then the master went and killed everybody. But how does it work? Did I miss something? I must have missed something, because how does this work?
I think that. Well, I mean, look at the master. He was set. He was retconned into suddenly hearing the drum beat since childhood, and then suddenly isn't hearing the drum beat since childhood. So all wibbly wobbly in that
Well,
when it comes to Time Lords.
no, there's a simple answer to that. New creative director.
Wizard did it.
Yep.
But yeah, I just like,
Yeah.
if it had been consistent that he can't go back, okay, if the confession dial had just dumped him right back where he was, okay, fine, he's right back where he was. He got out, but it sent him to Gallifrey, which is supposed to be frozen in time at the moment, because we never saw them unfreeze it, did we? I mean, we never saw him reverse the
No,
process.
but it could have been the confession dial transported him into the pocket dimension that Gallifrey has been trapped in.
But well, it's supposed to be not necessarily maybe I misunderstood, but from what it sounded like when he was describing it, Gallifrey was supposed to be like frozen in a moment of time, like a painting. So like the whole
Yes,
thing was supposed to be
but
time is stopped, and this is just they are frozen in time. They are frozen in carbonite. They're not aging. They're not moving forward in time. Time is just stopped. Maybe I
that
misunderstood.
I because I took it as they created a pocket dimension like
Maybe so.
the
And they did go back through the painting to get back to Earth, but I mean,
and time was still passing within the painting as far as the was still
I
going
suppose
on
time would have to
inside the
pass in order for
painting
the oh, what's it
for
called?
them to get out of it.
Yeah,
The
for
Zygon.
those Zygons to get out of it, time would have to be passing because you can't break something if you can't move forward in time, and all the paintings were broken from the inside. So apparently,
Exactly.
time's
It
still
has to
moving
be,
within the. It's not frozen in a moment of time. It's frozen in a bubble.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a pocket dimension. That's how I thought it was. I thought it was just a pocket dimension that they were that they encapsulated themselves in.
Yeah, which is interesting in that. Okay, so you know the thing is with the Gallifrey being lost, it's like it always seemed kind of odd to me when they said that because Gallifrey, I mean, assuming everything worked,
Is in the pocket dimension in
it's
the
it's in the
painting.
yeah, it's in the pocket dimension in the painting, and the pocket dimension is probably the entrance to it, and where the pocket dimension you would go to, you know, undo the pocket dimension would be where it was, which you know exactly where that is because Gallifrey is in the constellation Casterbarus. I mean, he knows where his home is, or she. They know where their home is. They know where Gallifrey's home system is, and yet, it's like, oh, now we have no idea where it's at. It's in a pocket dimension with the
Yeah.
door probably right near where they put it. It's like, you put it away. And also another thing is, once the Daleks killed each other,
Always in the last. Huh? What was that?
what I was gonna say is, okay, given that you sealed them off, the Daleks killed each other. Okay, at that point, everything's hunky dory. Okay, why wouldn't you
Mm-hmm.
immediately go and as soon as it would make the timeline make sense, like for so long, because Gallifrey being in a pocket dimension is actually sort of not much of a problem because like as soon as at some point they're going to be released. I mean, meta knowledge, they're going to be released, but like just afterwards, and they can go like there'd just be this one section of linear time that you couldn't go to Gallifrey in, like between the years, you know, Gallifrey calendar 905 and 910. You can't go to Gallifrey in that era because then Gallifrey is in a pocket. But like at some point, they would be able to time travel around that, like on either side. They'd be able.
No, that's against.
Well, no,
That
no,
is
on either
against the
side of that.
temporal laws.
No, I'm not.
No, it
Not.
is against the temporal laws. You cannot go to get outside of your own timeline. They are locked to the Gallifreyan timeline. That is why time in the Ronnie, the password was 953, and the doctor says, well, that's fitting. That's my age and the Ronnies, because they are locked to each other's timeline. They are locked to the Gallifreyan timeline. That is how they know how old they are, because Gallifreyan time, they're stuck to that timeline.
Well,
They
I'm not
cannot
saying.
go back into their own history. They cannot go forward into their own history. They're not. It's against the rules. They did it. I mean, they break the rules all the time, especially the Doctor. That's why they ended up in the Time War. But they are not allowed to.
Well, I'm just
It's one of
saying
the rules of
when
law.
it was supposed to come out of it. Okay, so they lived through the years that Gallifrey is supposed to be locked in. Okay, obviously the doctors didn't care about going to weird timelines when they locked it up. So, like, later on, after he's lived through the timeline, that the Gallifrey has lived through the timeline that it's supposed to be frozen in, like, you would then, at that point, it was supposed to be frozen for so long, till it makes sense again, and then go and unfreeze it at that point where it's supposed to be unfrozen. Because at some point, it's going to be unfrozen. Like, it's going to be depocketed. Now, you have to wait until it's supposed to be doing that, and you have to go linear with it, but eventually you'd think, okay, well, like 10 couldn't do it. But 11 at the end of that system, he knows everything that's supposed to happen because he can retain it. And then, like, it's supposed to be locked during 10's era. It's supposed to be locked during the War Doctor's era, and 9 and 10 and most of 11. But 11 and 12 could go at their linear time and go and unlock it, assuming they have the technology.
And they have the strength.
Yeah, assuming they have the strength.
The power, because remember, it took to lock it up there. It took all of the doctors.
Yeah, but they were also running the calculations for that long. Another way he could have done it is he builds a computer, okay, and he puts it somewhere safe, just running the backwards calculations somewhere, because he has all the time in the world now. He doesn't have to worry about, I'm locked to this linear timeline and I have to save Gallifrey now. He goes and he sets the calculations up. 11 sits a computer on some desolate moon somewhere for a millennia, or he does it while he's waiting on
Christmas.
Yeah, well, he's waiting on he's keeping this town safe. While he's there, he could have had that calculation running in the background. And he was there for like 1,000 years, so he could have just had that calculation running. And if the calculation to run it took about a millennia, give or take, because it went from the first Doctor. I've been doing it all my life, so it went from the first Doctor to, to 11. It took till 11 for the calculations to be finished, and then he could, then they could all do that. Like, he could just do the same thing, but build another computer. I mean, he's the Doctor. I figure he can manage a computer, put it in hide it away, make it to where only he could find it, and then, put it back somewhere, not Gallifrey, just like, I don't know, Pluto, someplace he's flying by anyway most of the time, or just, say, all right, I'm gonna hand it to somebody that he can trust that will, that will keep it for a while, like Torchwood. No, probably not. But, like, put it on the moon, and hide it away, and where the humans wouldn't actually ever see it. It's too small for them to see it, and then, do that in the past where nobody's going to be looking for it, and then when it's done, it should be done right about here. Like, you just jump from, say, he planted it in 1,000 AD, and he goes at 2,000 and goes and checks on it on the moon, and goes, done. Goes out, picks it up, and it doesn't even take that much time, because as long as nothing bothered it while it was waiting on 1,000 years, he can just go, I'm gonna plant it, at lunch, and I'm gonna pick it up at dinner. I'm just gonna fly to 1,000 years in the future, pick it up, and it could be 5 minutes. It could be as long as it takes him to travel from 1,000 AD to 2,000 AD. All that time it takes him to do that, it could take, he could just go directly from there to there, And as long as nothing messed with it, it'd already be done. And he could just pick it up. Oh, I've already done the calculations. And then do that. And then it's just a matter of gathering everybody again. We're going to unlock Gallifrey. Nobody could retain it but him, but he could unlock it. But that always seemed, it just, like, the way Gallifrey works, it's like, okay, consistent. Tell me, how would you unlock it? How do you know? But anyway.
You realize the only thing consistent about Doctor Who is its inconsistency?
Yes, but
I mean, wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, but I'm just like, just it'd be different if it was like something the second Doctor said. Okay, the second Doctor said it, and by New Who they've forgotten, or it's changed, or something. Okay, whatever. Hard to keep it that long. But this is like a key plot point of entire New Who, and then 11 was like, should I go looking for it? And it's just like, and then there's the whole bit at the end of it. It may, with looking at Gallifrey from well, there's also the final, his final episode where Gallifrey sends stuff through the crack, but I guess that so we've already established time moves forward in there inside the painting, it's just not in our time. Hello?
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 You mute us?
One sec. Yes, we can hear you, Doc.
We can hear you. I don't know whether you can't hear us, but...
And I muted my mic for a second, because I was...
But we can hear each other.
Yeah. She'll be back. He'll be back. Whatever. He'll be back.
Yeah, but anyway. Yeah, that's my rant about, like, if we had, like, if it had been something a long time ago, and it was a minor thing, and they just messed it up, like, they didn't realize, because it's a lot to keep, that's a lot of lore to keep for that long. But if they had said, like, if it had been, but it was just like, this is a very key element of a lot of things. This is sort of the day of the Doctor, and this whole thing is just like, how does this work? Is it in the pocket dimension? Is it out of the pocket dimension? What's going on with it? And how did 13 know how to get there exactly? I mean, I guess you had that thing that was in her pocket, and that may have given her the coordinates where she needed to go, but they seemed not to know how to get there. But
yeah.
But I wanted to get that off my chest before we started into the show proper, because that just like, how does this work? How does this work? Consistency. Like, if they were just out of the bubble, everything was straight, then everything would be all right, because then you're like, okay, Gallifrey is alive and around again, which it hasn't been historically for New Who. Like, when Gallifrey's back, that's a problem. There's usually some... You're videoing.
I know.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. But I was just saying, like, if it was Second Doctor, okay. But this is, pick something. Just pick a lore.
Yeah,
I don't
and
really
by
care.
the end of Prophets, and it was like, even within the same showrunner, it wasn't even the, new showrunner, let's change shit up. Like, a lot of what happened last season.
Yeah.
No, it was the same dude. Forgot his own lore.
Well, and the fact that it would be, if at least there'd been some mention of it, like, oh yes, Gallifrey's done, or they'd cover it in an episode. Okay, we're changing it, but we're changing it this way, and we're gonna have a little episode that's gonna explain what's going on with Gallifrey. But what might be what might be interesting is, okay, so at some point this thing's gonna be retconned. I mean, you can't kill off all of Gallifrey forever. Like, with this show, it's gonna be retconned either through some weird thing,
Timey-wimey.
some timey-wimey stuff that that the Doctor's not supposed to do, or the whole thing was an illusion used to fool the Master. Like they
Or to
all,
fool the Doctor.
yeah, and then everybody was actually off-world at the time, and they just let him think he was killing everybody, and then, or they made him dream he was killing everybody. That way he'd get over it. But eventually, they're gonna bring everything back. What's gonna be interesting is at the end of this, when they bring everybody back. Okay, let's assume they bring everybody back, which is probable. Or they could just kick off the looms again, and just the Doctor could go around, kicking looms open again and start, making new Time Lords, and then just start, teaching them enough that they can run it themselves. Spend 100 years teaching enough Time Lords that they can teach other Time Lords and get Gallifrey back running again, and then leave. But when this is all said and done, like, Gallifrey being back is an interesting situation because it's not something we've had in New Who. Like, Gallifrey has always been out of commission in one way or another. Like, it's always been locked in its pocket dimension, or, something like that. Destroyed, quote unquote destroyed. Which also brings an interesting question as to 12. How did 12 get out of the bubble if everybody else is stuck in there? But let's not go down that rabbit hole. But,
Sorry.
but, unless they just seal it away again, because, like, in Classic Who, from what I understand, Time Lords show up every once in a while. Gallifrey shows up every once in a while, especially in, like, the Sixth Doctor. There's a whole thing.
Yeah, Trial of a Time Lord.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time with Gallifrey, and it pops up every now and again. It's there.
There was an entire season revolving around the Time Lords.
Yeah. So, and New Who has basically said we're not going to deal with that. Essentially, we're just going to lock Gallifrey behind a wall. That way, we don't have to deal with all the plot holes that Gallifrey causes. Because when you have a bunch of Time Lords over there and one renegade Time Lord in the Doctor, it's like, okay. And, with, Rassilon and all that, and, although he did relieve Rassilon of his command, it's like, no. Like, everybody just said no.
Well,
we're done with you.
Was a giant douche. So, I mean...
Well, I'm not saying, I'm saying, Rassilon just like, yeah. So I'm curious as to how Time Lord culture changed after he got rid of Rassilon. He's just like, no. Yeah. And so, but having, okay, assuming we're manipulating Gallifrey, which means we're probably at the end of this going to restore Gallifrey. Or lock it behind another wall again and say, oh, we had our Gallifrey, now we're going to put it back in the box. We had a bit of Gallifrey, it was tasty, it was delicious, well done, but we're going to put it behind the box. Though it's probably not going to be well done, but we're going to put it back in the box. Like, if we have a Gallifrey out of the box, something that's actually, Gallifrey stands, Gallifrey exists in this universe, That's going to be interesting for New Who because that's never been the case. It's just always been gone, and how that will impact how things go. I just get this
How they're going to deal with the Doctor, because
yeah.
the
I just have
Doctor,
this funny thought of 13 being earthbound. It's stuck in Sheffield.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what happened.
I know it happened with
That is what
third, right?
it happened with 3.
Yeah, third had it at least for a while, and then like he
Most
was
of it, at least the first few seasons,
yeah
he didn't.
he didn't get
He
to
was stuck. And they sent his pets home. I mean, his companions home when they forced his regeneration.
yeah. So yeah, it's like, oh, you like Earth so much? Here, you're gonna be stuck on it for a regeneration, essentially. Then we'll let you go. It's basically a life sentence: either burn another regeneration or live out some time on Earth. You choose how long it is, how long your 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 stuff lasts. How long your
Well,
imprisonment lasts, but you're gonna have to burn a regeneration to get out of here or something like that.
no, what happened was he did earn his freedom by helping them defeat Omega
Okay. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, no,
during
Doctor,
the 3.
you've been up to some grade A BS, and we're not happy. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna stick you in Sheffield for a while. Have fun. You're gonna be stuck
Lots of
there in
planets
Earthbound for a while.
have a north.
Yeah. This is not dissing Sheffield at all. So if we have any viewers from Sheffield somehow, but I think it was Sheffield is where they've been kind of based for
Yeah,
this. Yeah,
the current one is in Sheffield.
yeah. Um, so, but you know, compare that to traveling the universe. You know, it's a little slow, and we've seen how the Doctor. Well, we've seen how 13 gets when he's stuck in one place for a while. that was a bit of funny, but um, 11
You mean
was
11?
yeah 11 was yeah 11 was stuck in place for a little bit. I mean 3 was also stuck, but you know he was stuck for longer, and he
Well,
was
you said
not stuck out of it. 11 wasn't stuck of outside of his own volition. He was just stuck there because he was waiting on stuff to happen. He was bored out of his mind. Um, but yeah, it's just this. Uh, but yeah, we haven't even gotten to the episode. Just dealing with the fact of Gallifrey. We're opening up that can of worms. Like we put that in the box and put it away for a while. Now, if we didn't touch it again, it's like, oh, they're still in the pocket dimension. They're still, they're there. They're just in the pocket dimension.
Hey, I mean, at least this tangent still had to do with Doctor Who and not Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean,
True.
I'm technically I am on
I mean, there
topic
was
because
that
this is a big.
Star Trek. I mean, it is kind of like that episode of Star Trek when I'm kidding.
Yeah, but yeah, but it is entirely on topic because it's a major plot point at the end of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And so, bringing back Gallifrey, I mean, bringing back the Master is confusing enough, but at this point, we've just kind of given up on wondering how the Master works because generally, just does.
The Master has blown through about 6 rounds of regenerations. Like, he keeps getting new regenerations from, like, out of thin air. It's like,
and been
your limit is
literally
13.
dead. And been literally dead, but brought back.
Yeah.
Sometimes brought back wrong.
Yeah. He was literally dead a few times. He was literally dead and then brought back as a ghost snake and possessed an American guy And that was kind of the plot of the movie.
But yeah, and then you had Sims who came back with like a ring. It was, I assume it's been a long time, but there was a ring involved. But then he was
Well,
wrong. Then it came back wrong, so he kept shooting lightning out of his fingers and having a voracious appetite.
yeah, I don't know about that one. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I mean, he came back blonde, and I can't say insane because he was insane already.
Well, I mean,
But
yeah,
yeah,
he was.
I think the ring though was actually after that. I thought because
Yeah,
that was
I just can't remember which
supposed
way it is because it's the master, and it's just like at some point you just go, "How did he come back?" Oh, we don't care. It's the master. He does that, and like, and,
exactly.
and Missy was supposed to like Sims Master was supposed to have shut down Missy's regenerations, and while she was dying, so that she wouldn't regenerate, but then she regenerated anyways, assuming that this new master is a straight up regeneration of Missy.
There, there is some there is some like controversy on whether some debate on whether he is Missy's sequel or a prequel, because there are also theories that he is an older, as in from an earlier time frame.
Yeah,
Like,
considering the master, the
like
timelines being time travelers being what they are,
uh,
you know,
pre-Delgado, but then the problem with that is the fact that he destroyed Gallifrey, and unless he is a point between Missy and Sims, which he can't be because Missy distinctly remembered regenerating from Sim, so that's not possible. So it's just the master, and the master is completely fucked up. Let's just leave it at that.
yeah,
Don't try
it's
to
one of those
talk
things of
about
modern Who, of Who in general, actually, that at this point it's happened so many weird ways, and he comes out of
yeah,
nowhere so many times that at this point you just sort of go, it's the master, we're not going to bother explaining it. Like the doctor will bother explaining it, but the master, it's just like he's a tricky, smart guy who doesn't want to die. He found a way.
Yeah, he probably cloned himself.
That is a theory. I mean, we saw what happened when you clone the doctor. The doctor clones into someone else.
Eh. Well, I
And
mean,
that's where Jenny came from.
that's where who came from?
Jenny?
Oh yeah, Jenny. Oh yeah, I forgot about Jenny. Yeah, we don't know exactly. She's we don't know what's going on with her, but yeah, I mean, for all
There
we know,
is a
Missy.
series
For all we
language
know,
about her.
Missy could have snuck into one of the if she was if the master knew enough to get to Gallifrey, could have gotten into somebody's loom or the family loom, hacked it to just make a copy of herself, and then imprint, do the ghost snake thing and possess her a copy of her own body and become the master again, but in a new body.
Yeah. I mean, she is a sly little fox.
I mean, I'm 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 no aficionado, but I think that's actually a reasonable explanation. As weird as it is, like that's a reasonable explanation, especially if they hacked it to make an exact copy and just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go right into that. And now I've got a full
Yep.
set of regenerations, a brand new body, you know, and it would even make fun an interesting thing you could do with like a sort of almost split personality to a certain extent. Like there's a little bit of like the first master trying to climb up, while the elder master is like controlling. Like it's this sort of newborn master personality is trying to fight back, and so you have this sort of this sort of
So
split
that's how
personality.
that's what causes the 11. The 11 is from a Big Finish series, a couple Big Finish series, but he is a Time Lord who all of the personalities from his prior regenerations are all stuck in his head in a form of dissociative disorder, I guess. So he can access each of them and he talks to each of them within his own head, but they each manifest at various times. So each of his prior regenerations sometimes comes out and he's completely insane. But I
Yeah,
mean, that's actually an interesting theory on how he became that way.
yeah. It's a general theory for whenever the mat that could be an interesting headcanon. And Chibnall, if you want to use it as a decent idea, actually, for how he got back, though, you're not going to probably spend any time actually explaining it because at this point everybody's just like it's the master, whatever. But if you were going
Yeah.
to spend time explaining it, like when you're showing what he did to destroy Gallifrey and what he found, like if you want to stick that in there, like it would actually make sense, and it's actually, from what I understand, fairly canon. I don't. You'd be the more expert on this, but I don't. I'm gathering everything I know to pull this thing together, and if you're not finding any holes in it, then you know.
it's it's an interesting theory, and well, there are a few like, okay, that might not work as far as that, but first of all, the snake thing I think is actually because his spirit possessed a ghost snake alien thing and then jumped from the ghost snake alien to the dude in some sort of parasitic thing. But
It's not like he couldn't do it again. He knew it worked before.
yeah,
She could find that
yeah,
ghost snake, possess it, you know, grab it as she's dying, set the thing up, enter the ghost, possess the ghost snake, then use the ghost snake to possess the new. It's convoluted, but it works. I mean, you could do the same thing. You
and
know,
since when is the master not convoluted?
yeah. So I mean,
He
if you
gets
want,
dizzy walking a straight line,
yeah,
to quote the Ronnie.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's a way for him to get a brand new set of regenerations. Have a weird split personality, which would be interesting, especially if it was a good personality. Like it was Koshé, which I think is the master's original name, something like that.
Yeah,
And so if it was actually like it was like his first regeneration, his first body, and so his first body is actually like he originally was, which was good before the Time Lords drove him crazy with the drumming. If his
I
first
don't
generation's
think
actually good and the master is possessing himself and he's got to confront his own goodness, which ends up
that
having
was
this
my
confrontational thing,
theory.
which like the
That was
first
kind
the
of how
first
my theory for Ronnie went.
what.
That was kind of how my theory for the Ronnie went, because my theory for the Ronnie is that she was actually Ronnie Chandra from Sarah Jane Adventures, and she used the chameleon arc to hide on Earth and avoid, you know, being drafted in the Temporal Cold War. And so she decided to be human, and she spent an entire lifetime as a human, which kind of, when she gets back her normal consciousness, she has to battle with that good, the good morals she gained from the human lifetime versus her
Yeah.
but science. Who cares about these mortals thing?
It'd be
Yeah.
funny. What if the master was really the Ronnie in disguise?
That's not possible because they were in the same episode together, and she kicked him in the nuts.
Damn it!
But then
I
he
can
couldn't retain it. One of them couldn't retain it. But no, and it would also be great if like Master manages to push his first incarnation down, but the first incarnation is in the background messing with him and setting him up to fail intentionally. So every time he gets the idea, he starts getting in on one of these schemes, and it would have worked. Like this first incarnation is in the background, underneath the master's not paying attention to him, and he's not actively stopping him from doing anything. He's just feeding him subtle little hints at something that would actually screw up his plan. And so he becomes becomes a self-sabotaging thing, and it explains why he's always failing, because he's self-sabotaging, because he's got the first incarnation is the good one trying to stop the evil one, the older evil one that's taking control. Like from that point forward.
From what I remember, it wasn't actually the Time Lords that made him go evil. It was the fact that the person he was in love with, well, I think also the doctor had a thing for or something, but the master promised her the world, blah, blah, blah. And she died or she left him or whatever, and it crushed him. And so he just went completely off the rails and was like, you know what? Fine, I'll take over the world for myself then.
Yeah, I guess they kind of tried to retcon that a little bit with the in his head, like the constant drumming inside his head. They tried to retcon that into something, for the people aren't going to remember her, the woman, all that lore back there. So we're just going to have him have this constant drumming in his head, and that's going to be what drives him crazy. But yeah, I mean, at this point, yeah, just the master is weird.
Yeah, well, all of it's weird, honestly.
Yeah. And now for the actual episode.
Well, I mean, technically, we have been on the episode because we've been talking about something very important to the episode, the master and how they got back. Which
true. But one thing I want to talk about the episode. Did anybody else get a Cyberman feel from the aliens?
Well, you have that ghost shift.
I mean, I could see where you would get the Cyberman feel.
Well,
because
let me explain. Blurry things you can't see, try and take over human bodies, something to do with computers.
Well,
yeah, I mean, it does have Holy Shades of Doomsday written all over it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it really does have Holy Shades of Doomsday.
Yeah, and a few shades of Blink thrown in there with the with the plane.
I don't think it's the remake Blink episode though.
No,
it's just but just like, and it may be setting up for that. Like, this is something the Doctor does. Like, this is something the Doctor is capable of doing, so we're going to set it up like, oh, she's shown the ability to do that before, and so we're going to set that up for the future, so if you see it again, you're like, oh, she did this, and then when you see it, it's like, oh yeah, okay, that's something she does. But yeah, and it also, this sort of backtracking to make something work, like she did with the plane, that may be something that they're also foreshadowing for something they're going to do with Gallifrey, like an illusion for the Master. Like, oh yeah, we fooled the Master into thinking he did this. That way we can bring all the Gallifreyans back without having to go, okay, We
Yeah,
killed
but
off the Gallifreyans. Now what do we
according to
do?
the Master, the Gallifreyans aren't as good as they say they are.
Yeah, which
Well, I
is
know it's the master, but second of all, are you really surprised? They have an organization that's specifically meant to interfere, which goes completely against their own laws,
yeah,
and it's called the CIA.
yeah. Sworn only to watch, never to interfere. That's
And
funny.
they have, and yet they have they have a an agency specifically to interfere and control the timelines of lesser beings because they're dicks.
With time machines, time and space
Mhm.
machines.
And another point I wanted to make, because they're Cybermen, they came from a different reality.
Yeah,
True.
like yeah, like she was saying, there's a lot of shades of Doomsday in this one. Um,
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't make a Ghostbuster reference.
Who are you
or
gonna call? The Doctor.
yeah, or just uh, yeah, do something. Uh, it would have been funny if they'd gone as far as to make some Doomsday references. Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I doubt they would have.
yeah, it would have been funny, but
I think that's a little too fourth wall breaking for them, though.
yeah, or if
That's more of a Deadpool thing. Hey, this sounds kind of familiar.
I mean, it wouldn't have to
Oh,
be something that obvious, but like something like whatever. If they mentioned the name of the company that was involved with Doomsday, and they had that company again, like that was the name of a company that was involved somehow. It's like, oh, that one, is a callback.
yeah. I
But
know it starts with a C. I forget what
yeah,
it was called now.
yeah, I don't remember, but Cyber
Cypress,
Cyber.
Cypress or hold on.
Yeah. But I like those sort of uh
Homages.
uh no, the sort of going back and, oh yes, that worked out because we did this back in this time period and whatnot, and so we got to go back there and do this, and let's see. There's something about Torchwood Tower, but anyway, um, yeah, it's just what was it? But yeah, I like those sort of. Oh yes, we went. It's what I assumed happened when I saw the plates on there. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you cheeky little. You went back in time, planted all this stuff out of the way, and now
Yeah.
you're now able to. It's like, do
That
this,
you know
then do
what
that.
that scene reminded me of? It reminded me of Bill and
Bill and
Ted's Excellent
Ted's.
Adventure. They were
Oh,
locked in the prison, and they're like, "Dude, I'm gonna remind myself to put a key in the prison after." I'm just like, "Holy shades of Bill and Ted!" Oh, it was the Cyber Corporation,
Cyber Corporation. Okay, well,
Cybus,
but
CYBUS Corporation.
Cybus. Okay, Cybus. Yeah, but yeah, if they, you know, it's fine that they had a different thing with that, but like they, like he'd said, make sure you organize schedule that meeting with Cybus Corp, you know, in for Friday on his way out talking to some assistant. It's like, make sure you you set up that, on the phone, set up that, meeting with Cybus Corp, and then just moved on with it, and then, it'd be an Easter egg, but it wouldn't be like blatantly in your face. Like anybody is like, okay, that's normal. He's just talking to somebody about a meeting with some other company, but to somebody who remembers what the company was called or digs, would find, oh, okay, they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. But
but that was also 2 showrunners ago, so
the memory of the Doctor Who fan base is long.
no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about via showrunners. Like the memory of the writers is not very long.
Okay, well, and they're all new. Well, Chibnall's been around for a while, so
Yeah,
he wrote in this, and he wrote this, didn't he? Chibnall
he did write this.
And
yeah,
so,
this was I was shocked. This was a good Chibnall episode.
Yeah, for Chibnall,
those are rare.
I mean, there's some problems here and there, but like
it was a good episode from Chibnall.
Yeah, it was a decent episode for Chibnall. Like, this writing is tight. It's 3 hours with American ads, but the writing is tight enough that it doesn't feel too bogged down, though. And he mostly keeps the preachiness down, though you do. There are a couple of things I'm not particularly. It's like, you could have left that out. Like, when Yaz goes on about cyberbullying and whatnot, it's like, okay, evil companies, you gotta restrict speech. You gotta make sure you those darn people that cyberbullies and whatnot. But yeah, and then it was brief enough that it wasn't just killer, but you could have left that out. And the other part was no, I've heard the Doctor is a man. I know this. And it's like, I've had an upgrade. It's like, no,
lots of people had issue with that line.
Yeah, it's like, okay, if you just said, I felt like a change, or something that affects something neutral, like, I changed. I do that. Or you made some little quip but kept it neutral. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. But like, upgrade, like, okay, whatever. But, and Whittaker gets on the cusp of some decent acting towards the end. She's almost there.
Yeah, she actually started coming into her own. Like, she's
not quite there. She's not quite good at the end, but she's very close to it. If she'd gone just a little bigger, if they'd let her go a little bigger, because she is never mad. She just emote in a way that is believable. That is, you read that as mad. It's just always sort of just this even, just either bland, even keel, or giddy, or either bland, even keel. She never gets mad or sad or anything. And then she gets a moment of Gallifrey where she's got an opportunity to be really emotional, and she's almost there. I don't think she went, let her go quite big enough on it.
I think with that, it was more she was trying to hide it. Like, you could see that she was...
From who?
Those controlled things. Like, she was trying to hide her emotion. Because, I mean, the Doctor is...
I was talking less about them. She's talking to the fam, but like more when she first finds out from the Master, she throws that thing. She gets upset. She could have gone bigger with that. Like, afterwards, it's okay. It's okay acting. I mean, her trying to hide it, I'm not complaining about that too much. That's fine. That's fine that she's not showing too much. She's doing okay in that one, but like she could have gotten even bigger. Like some believable emotion was shown when she finds out about Gallifrey from the Master, and she's alone in the TARDIS. She has nobody to hide it from. It's just her and the TARDIS. Like she could have gone really big with it. You know, just 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 because I mean, if you think about how Gallifrey has played into the Doctor in their last few faces, done all this work to save Gallifrey after having thought for so long that the Doctors destroyed Gallifrey, and then to find out the Master killed everyone on Gallifrey, it's just like, you know, you have carte blanche to go as big as you want because your entire species is dead again. Not your fault this time, but you've done all this work to save them, and then they're dead again, and it's just, Now she
Yeah.
did go bigger than I expected her to do, but she could have gone even bigger. Like it was better than it was some real emotion we saw from her, which we don't usually see that much emotion from her. You know, but and it was good, but it could have done just a little bit more, just a little bit more. I mean, just with how big this bombshell was for her, this could have been a lot bigger. But that's nitpicking. But overall, interesting episode. Lots of playing with time travel. And actually including somebody male who isn't in history who isn't a jerk. And going positive. It's like, yes, yeah, the Doctor going to see Ada Lovelace or whatever her name was at the time, and that French Resistance, French Resistance or basically British asset in
British
France,
intelligence.
British intelligence
Yeah.
in France. Okay, yeah, the Master in a Nazi uniform is a little on the nose, but okay.
Yeah, that was just like, oh my, yeah, seriously? Did you have to do that?
I mean, it is the Master, so.
I know, but I mean, it's like putting a sheet on Slimer, okay? It's like throwing a sheet over Slimer and being like, ooh, I'm a ghost. It's like, yeah, we know.
You're already, with the amount of blood on your hands, you're
like,
already. I mean, it could be just
Master,
like he's a big fan.
like
They
the
killed lots of
Master,
humans, so he's a big fan. He doesn't really care about who they killed, just the destruction, death. He's a general fan of, and he likes the fashion.
No, it's like, Master, in that outfit, you actually look less evil.
But no, I mean, that just, and I don't care for the company you keep. It's like, really? Really, Doc?
Yeah, I mean, based on what he's gotten up to, trying to kill as many people as he's tried to kill, he's probably in better company than himself. Not the company she wants him to keep, but better company than himself.
Exactly.
But, yeah. I mean, and it's also a little... I get it. It's Doctor Who. It is what it is, but having the Master's TARDIS be red, and all the lighting is red. It's like, okay, it's a little on the nose, but okay.
And the fact that scene with the flying house, okay? It's like, dude, all you're missing is the
Well, they don't even reference it. It's a little later on, or I think it was, it was during it when it's like it's a little Wicked Witch
Yeah.
of the West, but
Yeah, a little Wicked Witch of the West.
yeah, and I wonder if that one came out while they were storyboarding it up and sort of filling out the dialogue and figuring it out. It's like, yeah, he's gonna have this outback house, this long outback house that he's gonna have his TARDIS sort of
Was
disguised
it
as.
not just too obvious that he was the master, though? Like, that surprise reveal wasn't all that surprising.
It
Well,
was
it's
kind
that
of
it's like
surprising to me.
it's also that conservation of characters. Like, you spent way too
Yeah,
much time on this character. He's gonna turn out to be the bad guy, isn't he?
yeah, not only that, but just like the way she talked about him, it's like, oh, I knew, oh, for a long time ago. When I say a long time ago, it's like I met him once, but And then you see him in all this tech he's got. It's like, I get it, you're a spy, but no. That is like, it's like he is some kind of alien. And then as this episode's going along, it's like, nope, that's just like only one of them left, and I have one cage, I can capture him. It's just like so many. It was just so easy with it. Like
Okay, and
either he was writing this story. It's kind of one of those things where either he's writing the story or he's insanely lucky.
but one thing though, I not being an expert on classic Who myself, but the whole close range telepathy thing, is that a
That
thing?
is, yes, it is. It
Okay,
actually
I
is a
didn't know.
thing.
I'd never seen him use it before, but he's never had opportunity to use it for. So
In it happened. It first appeared in the second Doctor, very last episode, the War Games. It was how the Doctor contacted the Time Lord High Command in order to stop the War Master, which is no relation to the actual Master. The War Master is actually another Time Lord who's just this evil dude who's like playing soldiers with a bunch of random people captured throughout time. But anyways, that's the first time it's happened. It's also happened between doctors, where the doctor has telepathically bonded with himself in order to exchange information.
yeah, so
It
it's a
does not
Time
have
Lord to
to be,
Time Lord thing. It has to be Time Lord to Time Lord.
yeah,
And
it does.
doesn't seem to
It's
have
kind
pretty good
of,
range in terms that, like, she was concerned about it
okay,
being short range, but if he could contact the War Council on Gallifrey with his mind with the second Doctor, then I assume that the range is not that in. It's as long as you're in the right time frame, you know, you can.
yeah,
He's got and you're a time. They're both Time Lords and they're in the same time frame.
but in
They
that
can still communicate.
in that episode, he did have a focus. He had these cards that he used to create a box, a cube or something that he used as a focus.
Okay, so
But
that maybe it
yeah,
boosted the signal. It's like without a box he can't do it, but with a box he can vastly improve his ability to
yeah,
reach things. But okay, so it's a short range ability, but with a focus it can be much longer. He can reach
yeah.
all the way to Gallifrey. It may also be a matter of like a phone. Like if the Gallifrey has a phone and he has a phone, then he can communicate long range. But if one of them didn't have the focus, it wouldn't work as well. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's at least short range capable as long as you're in the same time period and close enough. They can do the telepathic thing. So I guess that's deep lore diving. So I guess credit where credit's
That
due.
I was actually impressed about that too. I was like, oh my gosh, they're using classic Who lore.
Yeah. before I forget about it, there's something that was kind of funny. It was like, okay, I was looking at, they were out in the beginning. His name's gone from me. Uh, Guy with dyspraxia. His name is just leaving me.
Oh, Ryan.
Ryan,
Ryan.
yes. Like, his name
Oh,
just.
when he was playing basketball.
Yeah, it's like, why are you playing basketball in weather where you could outside where you could have he has like 3 layers on, and they're out there playing basketball. It's like, wouldn't you rather be doing something warm inside than putting on 3 layers to go play basketball? But I guess maybe
Hey,
it's England, so they don't have much choice in the matter. Like the weather is never going to be that accommodating, so just sort of get used to it.
Yeah,
But
that's
I guess it makes enough sense that he would be doing that. But it's just sort of it was a weird sort of what? Oh, and
but I did appreciate that they addressed his dyspraxia again in such a nice and subtle way, as opposed to just being all like, oh gosh, he's got dyspraxia. But instead of the bicycle, it was him like trying to play basketball and being all like, I can do this. I got this. No, I don't.
yeah, and if you don't
And
know
it,
if you weren't paying attention to it and you wouldn't notice it, if you weren't thinking about it, you wouldn't notice it. Then that's But if somebody okay, but and one thing
yeah,
that
but nice and subtle. It
yeah,
wasn't just
subtlety is
like
better
slamming it in your
than
face.
yeah. If you're gonna have it like season 11 had all the subtlety of a brick to the face.
Oh yeah. It was a bit preachy. And when I say a bit, I mean like it,
Yeah.
it was about as preachy as they come.
Yeah,
But
Doctor Who's had some opinions, but they've always been allegory or that sort of thing. The 11 was just brick to the face, not subtle. This was a bit more subtle, though it had those couple of moments that if they had cut those out, I wouldn't have had anything to complain about really. I think they would have been fine on like not being preachy at all this episode. Like if they had just cut those couple of things or cut them back just a little bit, then yeah, like just tone them down a bit, then it would have been not preachy at all, and it would have improved the episode just marginally. But
I mean, I think the upgrade line wasn't to be preachy. I think it was more of a joke, like to
yeah,
carry on the running gag of like she's still not, it's like,
yeah,
no, see, I don't think
but
that was meant to be preachy or whatever.
yeah, it just that was with if it had been a doctor that had never had those sort of preachy things to it, I would have mentioned it, but it probably wouldn't have been as annoying. But the fact that you're going along for most of this episode and they're not being preachy at all. It's just a solid this is an interesting adventure. And then you just have these couple of speed bumps that makes it so much more jarring. Um, but oh, one thing I did love about I love Stephen Fry being in anything really, and
Yeah, I honestly think they wasted him killing him in like the first 5 minutes.
yeah, but yeah, it was one of those things where they needed to set up and it's not like they're going to use him a lot because I mean he's probably never going to be. I mean, he retired basically already. He's already retired because I mean he had his own show in um, for the longest time, QI, and he retired from that. So, like, and he did an American show for like a season as a minor character. Like he moved out to LA and he was on a TV show for. I think he's still in LA. He could be back in England. I don't know, but he he was a sort of a side mentor figure sort of thing. But But I like him in almost anything I see him in, because he was really good on QI, and I really enjoy his voice. But like I was like, oh, I hope they like when I first saw like not knowing how this episode was going to go. I thought, like in the first bit, like, oh, good, it was mercifully short. His because of how I was afraid it was gonna be a terrible episode. It's like, okay, they have him, but it's a terrible episode. But at least he was only in there shortly. But it is what it is, and I don't think you're not gonna pick Stephen Fry for the Doctor.
Oh no.
Like,
or the Master.
Yeah, not the Master, definitely. I mean, if he were, a not quite so huge and not quite, I don't even know how old he is, but I mean, let's see. He is 62. So I don't think he's the kind to, like, he's not a runner.
Yeah.
He would be a very good speech giving doctor, but he
Run.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the kind to want to run.
Yeah. When I say run without me.
Yeah. Oh yes, if we're talking about like delivering speeches, oh, he'd be fantastic. He would be terrible at the running business. He might be. He doesn't really seem like.
The only running he's good at is running gags.
Oh yeah, he's very funny, and he's a very good speaker and well spoken, and I really enjoy like most anything I see him in. But
Well,
I don't think he's a good. He would be seeing him run because he's like 6'4" or something, like ridiculous. Because I was thinking, because you see him, and it's really funny because they replaced him when he left QI. They replaced him and kept the show going with 6'4.5". It says 6'5". It depends on which one you look at, but he's 6'4", 6'5", and so he's a giant. Okay. And they replaced him with Sandy Toksvig. I'm probably butchering her name, which she is a little tiny person. Not tiny, but like petite. She's not tall at all. She's very small. 5 foot. So they replaced 6'5" to 5 foot. So that's always kind of funny.
He did make a good Troll King, though.
Yeah, just
Troll
like
King?
He was in The Hobbit.
Oh.
He was either troll or ogre. I don't know. He was something.
Oh, those were, I think, trolls. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, using him, he was, he was very well placed, like for what he's good at. Like he's really good at desk jobs, and being the old salt, the old person that knows everything and is a good director. He'd probably he makes good directors and bank presidents and that sort of thing. People who are leaders who aren't required to run a lot, but are very and that's probably why they his height is probably why they also why they shot him a good deal sitting down, I believe, just because it makes the shots easier to frame, like away from him or sitting down because he's so tall that which is side trivia, okay, a diversion. if you've ever seen like Supernatural, the TV show, it's kind of
Nope.
funny. Like I know you never got into it, but a funny sort of behind the scenes thing is like everybody thinks like there's two main characters, okay, and like everyone thinks like like one of them is tall and one of them is just average height. But the guy that they because of the way they set up shots and do everything, but the guy that's average height is like 6'2", and the tall guy is like 4 or 5, and so whenever they had a normal guy come in to play a specific character, and they had to put him on a box to make the sight lines match. So it makes me wonder, like, how much do they plan around tall people? Like, you can get away with up to a certain height, as long as everybody's within a certain number of inches of each other. Yeah, that's fine. But, but yeah, when you get 6'4", 6'5", it starts. You have to make sure your other characters in the scene are either the big guy is seated, or you're only using characters that are in the same shot that are the same, are still tall, that seem normal compared to the giant, but you um, but yeah, it was a good role for him in terms of if you're gonna use him for that sort of thing. I would have liked, it's not that they can never use him again, but they weren't going to use him. He was never going to be the Doctor, though. That's never stopped. It hasn't. That's been revoked. You can be on the show and then later be the Doctor. That's not like that's unprecedented.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
happened quite a few times.
yeah, because I mean, recently Capaldi, and I think Baker was also there.
He actually got the role of the Doctor because of the other role he was in. He was a guard or a soldier or something.
Yeah,
he up his role so much that they're like, why don't we get that guy? And in interviews, he actually said that, man, I was so worried that because of that role, I wouldn't have gotten the Doctor, but it was kind of the opposite.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting Stephen Fry to ever be the Doctor. I mean, there's too much running involved. No. But
I mean, no, I shall run. Activate the computer-generated running sequence.
That would have been funny. Would have been if they'd saved him for like when they bring Gallifrey back, bring him on as Lord President. Like Rassilon's been kicked out, and they got Stephen Fry as the Lord President.
Actually, the Doctor's been the Lord President a few times.
Yeah, but
Romana's been the Lord President.
Who?
Romana.
Oh, Romana. Okay, well, yeah. So he kicked Rassilon out, so somebody had to take over. So it would be interesting if it was Stephen Fry as Lord President. But then he'd have to probably play an evil character because they can never have a Lord President in Doctor Who that's actually good. That's not the Doctor.
President except for me.
What?
Is everybody Lord President except for me?
No. I mean, Ace wasn't Lord President, although she did become a Time Lord. Not as in a Gallifreyan, but she did pass the Time Lord Academy.
But yeah,
she was the 7th Doctor companion.
But they still could technically, if they wanted to do that. Thinking about it, they just say, "You look familiar."
They have to mention it. They never mentioned it for 6, or I don't think they mentioned
just something
it
they could do. But yeah, 12 they mentioned the heck out of it. That was a plot point. It's like, who frowned me this face? And they actually took advantage of the whole thing to say, yeah, oh yeah, and so yeah, who frowned me this face? That was actually something they did with 12, which was kind of cool. But yeah, if they wanted to, they could still do it, I suppose. But we have to get Gallifrey back first, which might take the season.
Yeah. I mean, the Timeless Child is supposed to be like the running point of this season.
So we are
Like,
going to be delving into Gallifreyan history
yeah, we're
at
supposed to
some
be
So,
point,
going Gallifreyan lore and all that shit.
so
which
we are on a normal Doctor Who schedule now, right?
I think it's supposed to be every Sunday.
yeah, for a while.
Okay, so was like one episode, then we're gonna wait months for the actual series.
No,
No,
this is going to
there-
be for the next. There's going to be one this Sunday or
I think
Saturday.
so.
Yeah, it's
Sunday.
some
It's
one
on
this
Sunday.
weekend, and then you're going to have the next weekend, and it's going to be like I think I saw like 10 episodes, but that could be just what's in the schedule right now. I don't know how many episodes are actually going to be part of this season. But yeah, this was just the only reason Spyfall Part One was when it was New Year's Day. They wanted to
Yeah,
make
it
it a
was a
New
New
Year's
Year's
special,
special.
though it had nothing to do with New Year's. But um,
Yeah, it only says like 10 episodes so far, but it doesn't say dates or times or anything.
but anyway, but yeah, we'd have. Oh, what was I saying? But yeah, it also makes me wonder. Okay, so she went to Gallifrey. We saw her go there. She stopped. She saw it, and then later on, she went and picked up the fam. And
Yeah.
so, did she go and find? What makes it interesting is if she went and found out what he found out. Like she saw what he found, and she knows
I
what it
don't
is
think
now.
so.
Or and then it'll come out later as the things go on, and that's why she doesn't want to go back there right now. She doesn't know what to do about it, and so once she went and checked that out, and then came back for the fam, and then like later on she'll have to deal with it. But I'm curious as to how that's
I
gonna
don't
work.
think she found out what she was looking for. She just, at least as far as how it looked to me, it looked like she just saw Gallifrey burning and she's getting triggers of the whole concept of the timeless child, which was buried deep in her psyche because of mythos from Time Lord culture or whatever. And it's just like it's there, but she's can't quite get it yet. And so she's just trying to avoid getting it because what is the doctor if not somebody who runs away from shit?
Yeah. What would be funny out of this would be if you're, and it's always my wonder, okay, is, okay, whenever you're digging into Gallifreyan stuff, I know they have set up the Doctor for quite a while with regenerations. They got a new cycle. They've only
Mm-hmm.
used two of them. But if at some, in some point in this thing, like the Doctor just gets that unlocked regeneration thing going on, like it's just unlocked. Like no, you don't have to worry about regenerations anymore. You have infinite regenerations. you know that would be an interesting time to take care of that, so you never have to deal with it again in Doctor Who history. It's like no, the Doctor just has infinite regenerations. Um, Still wouldn't want to do it a lot, but you wouldn't have to constantly. All right, Gallifrey, send another cycle. Every so often. Whenever they run out of regenerations, they just like send another cycle, Gallifrey. It'd be like, no, you just have unlocked regenerations.
Achievement unlocked.
Yeah, it's just because wasn't that one of the things like Rassilon had infinite regeneration? Like everybody else
Oh,
got like a nerfed version that was basically you get your set of regenerations and that's it. We can give you more, but that's it. You get this many, but Rassilon or somebody big got like unlocked regeneration. They could regenerate as much as they wanted.
His was because of some sort of ring, I think it was, or something. That was like the entire plot of the Five Doctors. They were all searching for Rassilon's tomb in order to find his secret to immortality, and because somebody sent them all there, and I think it turned out it was Rassilon himself who sent them there in order to release him, or give him the unlimited life. And then it turned out the unlimited life that he was searching for actually was just turning him to stone.
Oh.
And
Okay.
that
But
works.
yeah, like it's just they're gonna have to deal with that every so often anyway, for as long as this show is a thing, and it's gonna be a thing for a long time. I imagine it might take hiatuses like it has, but like it's if it's lasted this long, it's basically an institution, and it's the show is built to you know
The show
constantly.
is built to last.
Yeah, it's built to. It's such a flexible concept. You can do anything with it next to anything with it. So it's going to be around for a while. So it'd be nice to go ahead and while you're digging around the timeless child and all that, like I'm going to unlock your you silly mortal. You're only mortal. You've helped me. Here, I'm going to he just touches the doctor on the forehead like turning a key and then oh yes, you needn't worry about regenerations anymore. What? Yes, you were under the locked system. I just unlocked you. What? Yes, you just have regenerations now.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah. And that would, just like it would be a big thing, but I think it would be a thing that would just take care of things for a long time. It's like, yes, we no longer have to worry about that restriction. That restriction was old. We now have that restriction is no longer applicable to the doctor. You could take it away for a while, but they would, eventually unlock it again. It's something you could take away and give back as much as you want. But for drama, but it would solve that problem for a long time. Like, but yeah, it is interesting that they did sort of keep it. They did give you two possible, like who's the villain in this. And they ended up both being villains, but the Barton and O, like it's like Barton being the obvious one and O being the less obvious, but
yeah,
still obvious.
I get the master's motivations. It's the master, but what was Barton's motivation? It's like the world gets taken over by the aliens. He becomes rich or something.
I don't know. Like, okay, so the aliens are going to turn all these people into basically big storage devices.
Yeah, it's like finally I have enough storage to hide all my porn.
Like, if assuming he was exempt from the thing, like, was he just gonna rule over a bunch of decomposing hard drives, essentially?
Yeah, he didn't really think over the decomposing part, did he?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, yes, you can. Yes, DNA is a very dense information storage device, but it also has this nasty habit of degrading. I mean, to a certain
Yeah.
extent, it does. DNA will hang around for a while, but it will. It's not like it's I mean, not to say that hard drives will never degrade, but you know, how long does DNA stick around for? Like, look that up real quick.
Millions of years. Yeah. I mean, DNA itself can last millions of years, but I mean, that's if it's preserved correctly. Because they
Mm.
found fossils and stuff that still have trace amounts of DNA. The devil buried himself to trick the people into not believing the Bible.
Well, that wasn't really. Uh, mm. The longest, if it's in perfect place, it can last 1 million years, apparently. No more than that.
Yeah, it was like,
Uh,
you reached a million in one day. Sorry, it's gone.
well, at that point, yeah, there's a half life probably or something. It's
Yeah.
um, longest lasting sample of human DNA was discovered in northeastern Spain and boasts a survival age of 7,000 years. Um,
And otherwise, a bunch of computer humans aren't going to survive.
well, yeah, and the fact that you're not, and those are in basically as good a those are the best, those are the outstanding bits. Those are the, you know, if it was in ideal conditions, if
Yeah.
but these things are going to be, these people are going to be, they're going to be filled with maggots by the end of the day. Yeah. Because, like, didn't they have the one person that was, they had in that lab at the MI6 that was, like, on life support? It's like, they're going to be, you know, they're not going to be on life support. They're not have any DNA working. You need DNA to work to have a living person. Like, you wouldn't like if you didn't have, if all your DNA was popped out, I don't think you would instantly die, but it wouldn't be very long because then you burn up all the enzymes and proteins that you were using break down, and it wouldn't take long. Like, it wouldn't be an instant death sentence, but it would be very quickly. You'd start degrading and falling apart and dying. Because you just wouldn't have the mRNA to print out all your proteins and whatnot. And without new stuff, the old stuff gets worn out. It has nothing to copy. It just runs out of stuff and the cell dies. But uh, yeah, you got a bunch of essentially rotting corpses. Like they would just, yeah, they would just rot, and then something would eat the DNA, and there goes your nice little storage machines. Like, within, if you, and you're not keeping enough people alive to maintain the things. The whole plot is really thin on that regard. Like, why were you doing this? I mean, I understand the master's motivation.
Yeah. Exactly.
I understand the master's motivation. I mean, killing a bunch of the doctor's little pets? Do I need an excuse? Yeah. I'm the master. I'm going to mess with the doctor. That's how I get the doctor's attention.
Yeah.
Uh, that's also how I piss off the doctor. And I like seeing the doctor pissed off. It entertains me. But yeah, he's just like, what were you getting out of this? um But it was an interesting episode, if nothing else. It had a lot of action. The the time travel bits were interesting. Um, some of it was a little on the nose, but it was generally fun. If I'm not cracking on it too hard, but what would have been funny is if Barton had been completely innocent in this whole regard, like, or so naive, like he didn't know about what was the doctor, the genetic rewriting. Like he didn't know anything about that. He just thought, you know, like the master had sold him something incredible. Like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and like he didn't know what was going on, and then just like all this started to happen. Like you trusted the master. That's what happened. You know, but they all thought he was this mastermind, but he was just being played by the master.
Yeah, I think his motivation though was a little less complex than that. His motivation was to get his mommy's approval because the way that scene with his mother seemed so Freudian. It's all like, well, look at you never approved of anything I did before. Now look at me.
Yeah,
Look
that's
at me now.
some of it. Yeah,
Yeah, that was his motivation to get back at his mom for not approving of him.
Wow. That is
Yeah,
the most pathetic
sad,
thing I've ever heard.
but true. I mean, he's done all this and his mom still isn't proud of him. He's like, I created the world's biggest search engine. I beat up Google for you.
mm-hmm.
Eh? Why'd you move away from home? To beat up Google. Yeah, but you left home and you're just playing on your computer all day. Ma, I'm taking over the world. Oh, you say that every week. Fine, I'll show you.
I'll destroy the
You'll be
whole human race. Ah.
hey. It's kind of a stereotypic supervillain concept too, like searching for approval, which is what causes them to go into a spiral of dissociative psychosis that makes them want to take over the world.
And more power, more power. That'll get me the attention I want, but he'll never quite, because what he's doing is not getting her approval anyway. So, you know,
Exactly.
Yeah.
but
Timey-wimey stuff. This is probably one of our longest
uh,
reviews.
I don't know about that. I mean, we usually go the full length when it comes to a two-parter, and we
Yeah.
started like 10 minutes in, so it's not that
Yeah.
bad. But yeah, I mean, it was all pretty fun. The only thing that, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense is his motivation for turning everybody into slowly decaying hard drives. Like, that doesn't,
It
I mean,
was just to it was just to get his mommy's approval.
yeah, which, considering he turned his mommy into a hard drive first, it's like, yeah, but It could be just that final. It flipped from wanting her approval to, all right, well, you're not giving me approval. But um, yeah, it was better. I mean, it wasn't the best episode I've ever seen, but it's
Well,
one of
I mean,
those. It was one of
that's
those
monster.
when you've been.
Nobody. What?
It's one of those when you've been beaten over the head for a season with, either bad or episodes for the most part. Like seeing something that's decent, it's like, oh, by contrast, this peanut butter sandwich tastes better than this dog poop. Like,
I think what it is this is the second Michael Bay Ninja Turtle movie. I mean, he fucked up the first one terribly. He made it almost as bad as Rise of the TMNT. So the second one, he actually, listened to their critics, listened to the fans, like, shit, I really fucked this up. Let's see if I can do better. And he did better. Hopefully hopefully it continues to improve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this time there was a lot less stopping down and distractions. Like, I wasn't distracted by the fact that she had so many
Companions.
Named the word just left me. It wasn't as distracting that she had so many companions.
That's because they each actually had something to do this time.
Yeah. Graham had the tap dancing laser shoes.
They were just sat there talking or sat there just doing nothing in the background.
Yeah. Graham with laser shoes. It's just.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Just Graham with
you to death.
It's like Graham.
You're still wearing your laser shoes? Why didn't you use it earlier? I never read the instructions. What about you? Don't you have anything? I've got these laser cufflinks. Well, why didn't you use them? I didn't read the instructions either. And yes, just behind them, you can see she's like, men, never reading the instructions.
She thinks to herself, I didn't read mine either. But I'll
she
never
didn't grab anything. I don't think she grabbed anything.
She didn't grab anything. They're Ryan and Graham were like, man, I want to be a spy. And so they each grabbed like 2 suitcases each and are like, I got some goodies.
Yeah. And so, it was, they weren't, it wasn't distracting. She had so many companions. And the moment, not in necessarily what they're saying, but in sort of the feel of the scene, the moment they're in the construction site and they're all just sitting down, having the conversation, and it actually isn't an annoying conversation, like it actually is tied into what's going on, and I got like this little feeling of, the episode where you have Jack, I think, so Jack, Martha, and the 10 were in that. They were hiding from the master, and he made the perception filter sort of keys to
yeah.
It felt, the feeling of that scene kind of, it was there a little bit. I think it was Martha. It might have been Rose.
No, it was Martha.
It was Martha. Okay. Yeah, I was just doubting myself. It's like, I could have sworn that was Martha, but
because the master,
I knew it wasn't.
Rose never met the master. The first time we meet the master is after Martha.
Yeah, it was
started.
Martha
It's
because
in
because
Utopia
Martha
Sound of
goes and she goes around the world and they all
I
think happy
believe it's not
thoughts and the master
you.
gets
I do. If you believe really hard and clap your hands 3 times, a doctor gets his wings. Wait.
yeah, basically using the latent psychic abilities of the entire human race to restore the doctor. It's like, okay, that's a thing.
I do believe in fairies. I do. I do.
It was a little silly, but it was the master was fun in that one.
I honestly, Sims was not
I know
even
he's
top.
not your favorite type. I know we
Yeah.
both like Missy, but
Oh yeah, Missy is like one of the best masters out there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
like
Missy. Okay, my top: Missy, um, Ainley, and Jacoby. Those
okay,
3 tie for top. Then Delgado, then Beavers, then Sims, then what's his name? Eric Roberts. Actually, no, that other master from the Big Finish audios, then Eric Roberts. Eric
okay,
Roberts sucked. He was in
okay,
the movie.
okay.
He was in the movie and he was so flaming. He's the one who was a snake who possessed the American EMT and
Okay.
then became really flaming. I always dress to impress. There's
But
very little I remember about that movie, and after watching it, I forget that I was watching it. But there are a few things that are just like, ugh,
he was a bit
about him.
fabulous.
He was
um,
he was the least fabulous fabulosity I've ever seen.
oh dear.
Oh my.
But so we have a master again. He's stuck somewhere, but
Oh,
that's never stopped the master before.
he's oh my.
Oh.
And what did you think of this master? What little we saw of him, like
I mean,
comparatively, we've only seen him one episode, two, but like,
I think he has potential. He's a lot darker than the Sim Master. And my problem with the Sim Master was he was boring. He was just like, oh my gosh, I'm insane. And that was it. He had no depth, he had no personality. He was just like, and it's like Lex Luthor turning into the Joker.
but this
But
one,
this one, he isn't my favorite. I mean, honestly, I haven't seen him long enough. But
yeah, we
he seemed to have the potential to be a good master. He does have that quirky little silliness that Sims did, but Missy had that too. And he has more of that Missy dark sinisterness that Sims lacked. Sims wasn't sinister. He wasn't evil. He was just crazy. And I mean, it's kind of ironic that the Looney Tune is the one who actually almost succeeded, but he still was too flat, too two-dimensional for me. This one actually, even though we've only seen him in one episode, he's shown a little more character, a little more personality, which I appreciate.
but yeah, we just haven't seen enough to really give him a final grade because
Yeah,
he's
I mean,
we've seen him in one episode with one scheme. We don't know, and I'm sure we'll probably see him very soon, given that they invested this much in Gallifrey. You know, he
although
might team up with the Doctor again, like they did at the end of Time, and mess with the Time Lords overall to try and save them from themselves.
to be fair, I did like Missy the first genuine time we saw her.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, but she's just so off the charts good that it just like you didn't need a lot of
She's just
time.
too amazing to not love.
Yeah, and that's the thing also with some of these doctors with like, you know, one of my criticisms of 13 is like 9, you saw the kind of guy he was from Rose. 10, he only had a few minutes of actual consciousness in that episode, but you knew who 10 was. 11, same thing. You only had he had the whole episode, but you got a feeling for who he was off the bat. 12, same thing. But when you got to 13, it's like, who is 13? And so,
Yeah,
but
the
no problem with
problem
Missy on that.
they
But
had, I think the problem they had was they were playing it too safe last season, and because Doctor Who, the reason it is so long lasting is because of that change in character and change in personality. You know, like it would not be around today if Troughton imitated Hartnell instead of made the Doctor his own. If he went for the grumpy old guy instead of the kooky uncle like he did, Doctor Who would not exist right now. It is the switching of personalities, and it is that change that makes it so long lasting. And the problem they had was, okay, we got a woman doctor. This is so hard hitting. Let's make her like one of the other doctors so we don't alienate our fans. And that's what they did. They made her a carbon copy of 10 and 11. They just took 10 and 11, smushed them together, and threw them at her. And that's the problem. Instead of giving her her own personality and giving her her own characteristics from the start, they just made her 10, 11, 10.5 or whatever.
yeah, and the other thing is flaws. She needed something sort of flaw. Like 10 had arrogance. He was charming, but arrogant. 9 had his sort of time warp hangover. 11 was just he didn't seem to take things very seriously and annoyed people, and that annoyed not the viewer but like the people in universe. And he was very old. For as young as he looked, he was very old behind all that jumping around like a fool.
Mm-hmm.
And 12 needed a carer. Like,
yeah,
he cared, he was kind, but he wasn't very nice.
I think her flaw is is the same as 11. She doesn't really take things seriously enough. But that's because she's a carbon copy of 10 and 11.
I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, it'll be one of those things where we'll be able to judge everything. Like, in hindsight, it'll be easier to judge when we know the full picture of what 13. And she might go through some changes with, something like this season. Like, they actually make an effort to give her a personality.
Yeah.
They might do that. Who knows?
Here's hoping.
They improved the episodes. This is an improvement over last season. But, it's an okay episode. It's not amazing, but it's an okay episode. This is a decent episode of Doctor Who. But compared to what we got in season 11, this is better.
Yes.
Is it amazing? Is it, I'm going to throw it up against 10 or 11? No. I'm going to throw it up against anything like classically assumed to be amazing? No, but it's still, for what, as stumbly and nonsense they did last season, it's an improvement.
Yeah, compared to what it was good.
Now, the thing to worry about for me is, okay, Chibnall wrote both these episodes. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
let's if he's got any good writers this year.
Yeah. Do the writers, does he have them, on a short leash on the writers that he got for this season? Does he have them on a short leash, and are they going to keep the preaching down to at least this level or lower? Are they going to keep a rein on that? If he doesn't keep a rein on that, if he doesn't make sure that they write good episodes, this season could go downhill. Like, Chibnall improved, somewhat, but like, because wasn't he in charge of the spider episode?
I don't remember.
But the spider episode is just like, if you want to point to what's wrong with season 11, just like point at the spider episode. It's basically most of it's in there.
I'm pretty sure they did kind of sneak in a Brexit joke in this episode.
Which one? What point?
When they mentioned Unit and Torchwood. It's like,
yeah, but they'd already kind of set that
back.
up last season, and
No,
they couldn't really.
They already had that. They already said Torchwood and Unit aren't up. Which Torchwood has been destroyed since Rusty D killed it when they joined with the Americans. That's been dead. But Unit has lasted since the 60s. It is a global organization. It's not gone. It is just not in the UK anymore.
But yeah, I think if they've learned anything from it, it might be interesting to see them bring it back. Like, they're acknowledging it. Yes, we took it out last season, which was stupid. Let's, if they go, like in the next, within the season, they bring everything back.
I mean, they're bringing back the Jejune. They're bringing it back, I think the Rachnos.
But yeah, if they bring back Unit and all that,
this was a good setup if they were going to bring back Unit, because it's like, shit, we actually need Unit. We're fucked now.
And now I have something very important to say. Goodbye, streamy people.
Yeah, I guess so. It is time.
No DuckTales.
Yeah, no. Farewell.
Right, see ya.
Farewell.